Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started in just a minute here. All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Today we're joined by Hank Hoffmeier from iContact to discuss email marketing and how to use it to your advantage. Your phones are currently muted, so if you have a question throughout the presentation, feel free to type it into the chat box or the question box to the right, and we'll get to those questions during the Q&A at the end. So we'll be saving those. Just a little bit about marketing and communication services. My name is Jess Larkin, and I'm the Marketing and Communication Specialist at Cornerstone. My information and Marilyn's are right there on the screen, so if you'd like to get in contact with us, we can help you flesh out ideas for refreshing your brand. So feel free to call us or to email us. And remember to chart your course with Cornerstone's 2020 rewards trip. Winners will set sail on the Royal Caribbean Harmony of the Sea ship on May 3rd, 2020. All the qualification and registration details are on the Cornerstone website at www.crnstone.com/cruise-2020. So register today so that we can begin tracking your progress. We won't start tracking points until you've registered, so just keep that in mind. Cornerstone's brand new Resource Center also provides access to a full repository of individual employee benefits, licensing, commission, and marketing resources, as well as a full library of Cornerstone white papers, all the white papers that you're seeing on a month-to-month basis. This is readily available 24/7 and doesn't require a password, so that's nice. It's right at your fingertips whenever you need it. And you can find it at www.crnstone.com/resource-center. If you have any questions about this, feel free to call or email me or Marilyn, and we can help walk you through it. All right, I'm now going to turn over the presentation to our friend Hank Hoffmeier from iContact, who will be discussing the value and importance of email marketing and how to implement best practices to yield the highest delivery and open rates for your messages. Over to you, Hank.
Thanks, Jess. It's so great to be here. I love working with you guys, and more importantly, I love talking about email marketing. Let's get my screen up here so I can show my screen. All right, everything should be in working order. Number one, you should be hearing me. Number two, you should be seeing my screen. If you don't, please use the chat section there, and we'll get that figured out for you. Moving into email marketing. What's funny is I met my wife back in the 90s through an AOL chat room, and they were very popular back then. You had to use something called a dial-up modem to connect to the internet, and what happened was that you connected this little box to a phone line, and it would actually physically dial a number and connect to the internet, and it took a little while. And for those of you on the phone that maybe know about dial-up internet, you probably know the horrible noise it made when you connected to the internet. A lot of times when I do this talk in front of a live audience, I ask them to actually repeat that sound back to me, and it's so funny, and I actually have it on video, so some of those people might be embarrassed at this point because it's now live on YouTube. A lot of things have changed since email back in the 90s. When you logged into, say, AOL to check your email in the 90s, you went there for a specific purpose, to connect with friends and family in the chat rooms. And then when you went over to your email, whatever was in that inbox usually was important. It was from your friends and family and maybe from specific businesses that you trusted over time. And you didn't get as much spam or what I call bacon, email that you kind of signed up for but you forgot about, that sits in your inbox and every now and then you'll snack on it and eat it, right? We get so much email now that it's ridiculous, and that's why you need to make sure you're using email marketing to promote your business, your products and services in the right way. And email marketing is the best channel for you to do that. If we talk about email marketing, some folks will say, well, why should I use email marketing when social media is more popular or all the cool kids are on social media? Well, email marketing is 40 times more effective at acquiring new customers than other channels like social media, even pay-per-click, and if you're still using direct mail. According to Pew Research, 6 in 10 American workers who use the internet say email is very important to doing their job. If you use email marketing, you send email messages to everybody, you're actually going to be in their inbox, and that's where they are all day when they're working. And more importantly, 83% of B2B marketers use email newsletters for content marketing. So that's you folks. You probably are B2B or maybe B2C. So regardless of whether you are B2C or B2B, email marketing is going to be a very strong marketing channel for you. Okay, why email? We went over that. But what makes email marketing so effective? Everybody uses email marketing. 95% of online consumers use email. In fact, if you sign up for a social media account, what's one of the first things they ask you for? An email address, right? Email allows you to be visible to everyone where they are every day in their inbox. It establishes trust and builds loyalty. It complements other marketing channels like social media. It helps you increase your brand awareness and allows targeting and personalization for a higher engagement on your email marketing campaigns. "72% of consumers say email is their favorite method of communications with companies that they do business with." That's another reason why email marketing is important. Now you know the why and the reasons that you need to be using email marketing. And what we should talk about is how it works, right? You probably just get a list of email addresses and maybe the first name, you put it into a platform and you create an email and you hit send, right? It's just that easy. And then you start making money and you're rich, right? And then you can retire by the time you're 30 years old. Well, it's not really true. What you want to do is make sure that you are using a way to acquire an audience. But what you want to do is make sure these folks want emails from you. They have to opt in to receive these messages. In other words, there's nothing worse than getting a message or an email from someone that you never heard from or don't even know, right? You want to develop a look and feel with your emails that looks professional and maybe have it be consistent in one way and then have it look a little bit different in others. And we're going to go over that in a little bit. One of the most important things is you want to make sure you're providing content that's going to be of value to your subscribers. I signed up for State Farm insurance years ago. What I really like about them is, I only have home and auto insurance with State Farm. They don't pummel me with messages about life insurance, right? They send me emails that are useful to me, how to protect my home from burglaries, how to prepare my car if I'm going to go on a long trip. That's information that's of value, and I'm going to keep reading those emails. But every now and then they might pepper in, hey, have you started planning for retirement? Talk to us, we can help you. And that's the way to do it. And if you know Gary Vaynerchuk, it's the jab, jab, right hook method. You're going to jab them with valuable information. Then you're going to come in later with the right hook with your sales proposition. And what you want to do is make sure you're sending to the right people at the right time. Again, people receive too many emails and you have to catch them at the right time so that they're going to engage with your audience and with your emails. So you want to use data that makes sense, right? And it helps you with your business decisions. Who are you sending to? What are you sending? When are you sending it? Where does it go? And why should you be sending that particular message? And lastly, you want to measure your ROI and analyze the data you have to see where you can make improvements. Look at your results, analyze it, test some of your content like subject line or the content or images, and rinse and repeat and keep doing that. Keep looking at results. Find ways that you can make little changes to make sure that your efforts are not going in vain. So if you do everything right, your metrics should improve, and you should always be sending the right emails to the right people that are always going to be engaging. Therefore, you're going to be closing more deals. Let's look at the elements of email marketing. For me, there's three of them that you need to really pay attention to. The first one is having a sign-up form on your website or a landing page. This is the best way for you to accumulate email addresses or new people for maybe a newsletter. You'd have a sign-up form somewhere on your website that would ask for at least the first name and email address of folks so you could start emailing them. One thing that's cool is you can actually send out information on social media, links back to these websites or the forums to get these email addresses. What you want to make sure you do is only ask for the information you need. If you ask for more than that, it creates what I call friction, and people will not fill out that form if you're asking for too much information. Let's say I have a form on my website and I'm asking for first name, email address, date of birth, favorite color, the gross amount of my taxes for last year, the make and model of my car. And all of this is just to get information about, maybe a restaurant, right? Signing up for their newsletter to find out what meals that they serve. I'm probably not going to give that information. But when it comes to insurance, maybe knowing a little bit more is something that somebody will say, you know what, they might need that information, like where I live or a location. So maybe first name, email address, and where they live might be helpful to you, but don't ask for more than that. What you can do later is actually send out an email and run a survey to get more information. What you want to do is start out with the information you need to start a relationship, then ask for more data later that you can use in your emails. Next, once you have that email address, somebody filled out a form on your website, you want to send them a welcome email right away. This solidifies that relationship and it reminds folks that they signed up for your emails. There's nothing worse than providing your email somewhere, then all of a sudden 2 weeks later you receive an email from that company or that brand. What happens is they may forget who you are and ignore, or worse, delete or mark your message as spam. Send that welcome email right away. A lot of platforms like iContact allow you to immediately send a welcome email, welcoming them into the fold. In that email, you should have information like, hey, thank you for signing up. And if you have a special, promote that special, that's fine. But say, hey, here's how often we're going to send you an email. You can unsubscribe at any time. And here's what you can expect from us. This way you're setting those expectations and they know to be looking for your emails at a certain cadence. When it comes to sending emails, there's nothing worse than having a bland email that looks the same week after week or month after month. You might want to develop a couple different varieties of emails. Maybe one has more images or one has more text and one has 2 columns and one has another column. But the most important thing to remember is keep your branding on point. In other words, your branding needs to be part of your email template, because if it looks drastically different as far as coloring or even doesn't have a logo, I'm probably not going to recognize you. Great emails use a good mix of images, video, and text. It's also good to have a couple different template types, like I mentioned. One that looks like the one here with a video at the top. The other one has an image, and then more images at the bottom, and it's a little bit longer. Remember that humans are visual by nature. We love images and video. To help convey your campaign message quickly and to get more attention, use more images, use some video, so that the recipient's eyes will be drawn right to those images. Also, make sure to use quality images that are usually not stock photography or unrelated to the content of your message. Images offer a great way to showcase your product and services, not something that's has nothing to do with your business at all. So these are 2 different versions of a template from Main Street ROI, which is a marketing agency. it comes to images, make sure you're keeping your images under 600 pixels so that they'll render correctly in email clients. In other words, if it's larger than 600 pixels wide, it may actually not show up correctly in the inbox. You want to have a good mix of images and text in your emails. When it comes to what we call the text to image ratio, make sure you have about one paragraph of text to every image. The general rule of thumb is a 60-40 split. This means you should have 40% images and 60% text. What happens is spam filters monitor for this text to image ratio, and if you have a lot more images than you do text, your email may not even make it to the inbox. It might go right to the spam folder. How this came about was spammers caught on that these algorithms were looking for spammy words, so what they would do is overlay them on images where the computers couldn't read them. So now you need to have more text than images. Make sure your call to action is clear and engaging, and it helps you facilitate a conversation. And then also, your email needs to look great on a mobile device. Therefore, it needs to be mobile responsive. Providers like iContact provide a mechanism to where when you build your email once, it looks great on a desktop, on a tablet, as well as a mobile device. You also want to make sure you're using great subject lines. You want to get people's attentions. And that's a great thing that you can test. It's called split A/B testing. You test two different versions of your email to see which one does better. You test one version of a subject line to another. Now that you know the three elements of email marketing, what you might want to do is start measuring your results. Hey, how do I know if I'm being effective? How do I know if I'm successful with my emails? When it comes to open rates, you want to be somewhere at least around a 20% open rate. If you're not, try to get there as soon as you can. And if you're well above that, pat yourself on the back because you're beating the industry average. When it comes to clicks, look for about a 5% click rate. Anything over that is gravy and you're doing a great job. If you're below that, maybe your call to action needs a little bit of work. The unsubscribe rate, or the amount of folks that are unsubscribing, should be 0.5%, but that means 5 per 1,000 email addresses that you're sending to. And bounces or invalid email addresses should be less than 1% of the audience that you're sending to. The first thing people see is going to be the subject line. When you send an email, that's what they see, and they're going to decide if they open. That's what boosts your open rates. What you might want to do is take a look at personalizing the subject line. Injecting something like the first name into the subject line helps you stand out in the crowd. It helps, and it's more powerful because a lot of other marketers are not doing this. And when I see my name, it draws my attention, and it may do that for you as far as being in the inbox and gaining attention and getting that open. Emojis are good too. You can use emojis in the subject line. Almost every provider out there supports emoji in emails, but you want to be careful because some of them may not render them correctly, or there are a few that don't render them at all. I like to use what's called bookmarks. You put them at the beginning and the end of your subject line, or the beginning or the end. And another little tip is you want to make sure that emoji has something to do with the content of your subject line and or your content, right? Make sure your subject line is about 6 to 10 words in length. Anything more than that, it's probably going to get cut off, and then your subject line will not make sense to the reader. And we kind of alluded to split testing. What you want to do is test the subject line. Split testing is where you take, say, 10% of your audience and you serve them version A, which has a subject line of one variant. Then you have version B that goes to another 10% of your audience with a different variant of a subject line. And what you do is let that bake for about 24 to 48 hours, see how well it does, and then you see which one has more opens. And what you do is choose that one and send it to the remaining 80% of your list. I had a client that worked with me a while back. We started doing this, and he did it all the time afterwards. He said, you know, Hank, I don't understand why all of your clients don't do this. It's like getting free opens with every send. And that's true, because what you're doing is you're testing to see which subject line is going to be effective, and then the remaining 80% is going to be boosted. That open rate will be more than what it could have been. So make sure that you're doing split testing. And then you have something called a pre-header. To me, this is what I call an extension of your subject line. It's the first bit of text that's in your email. And what it does is, if you have Gmail or Outlook, you'll notice this. You'll have the subject line in bold, and it may say, on sale today. And then the pre-header is not bolded, but it's still kind of there, and you can read it, especially in Gmail. So we have on sale today, items that you're going to love would be the pre-header. So think of that as the extension of your subject line, because you can only, or you should only, use 6 to 10 words in your subject line. The pre-header can help you get more information in front of the reader to help them open the email. All right, here's probably one of the most important things to talk about with email, but that nobody really wants to talk about. It's legislation and what can you do legally as a marketer, right? The Can-Spam Act was enacted in 2003, and it basically just said you needed to provide a mechanism for subscribers to unsubscribe from your email address, and you need to say who you are. In other words, you have to have your company name, your address, or some kind of contact information in there. Then it took us until 2014 to get the Canadian anti-spam law, or CASL, enacted. Now, you might say, well, what does that have to do with me? I don't do business in Canada. And the same thing goes true with the new one that was enacted last year, the GDPR, or General Data Protection Regulation, which is in the EU. Right? What you're saying is, hey, I don't really do business in the EU, but how do you know if you're not sending to someone that lives in Canada or that is not an EU member? Because here at iContact, we actually have an employee that has dual citizenship here and in the EU. Therefore, if I send a message to that person and she did not opt in or give me permission to email her, give me consent, I'm actually breaking that legislation, and that can be fined. Can-Spam, probably you get a little slap on the wrist, you get a few $1,000 fine. And with GDPR, that can be in the millions. You can really hurt yourself by sending to people that don't want your email. So therefore, make sure that you're sending to people that only want your emails and have opted in to do so. And like I mentioned, some do's and don'ts. The first thing is send to people that only want your emails, only those people. And then what you want to do is make sure you provide an easy way for those subscribers to opt out. Make sure you hold on to the data that you have and that you're able to delete it. That will help you meet GDPR legislation. And by doing the right things, not only will you meet the regulations I just spoke about, it's going to help you improve your email deliverability, because you may be affecting yourself adversely if people are ignoring your emails, or if your email is bouncing and it doesn't exist, or if they're marking your message as spam. Don't buy lists. Don't buy an email list. I'm just going to leave it at that. Don't send too many emails. In other words, once a week might be okay, but if you send me an email every single day, do you need to be doing that? Do you want to just get in front of me because you're hoping I'm going to open an email at some point? Most companies send about once a month, maybe some once a week if they're a retailer. My motto is do unto others what you want unto to you. So if I receive emails from a brand and it's once a week and I feel okay with that, then maybe it's okay for you to do that. Kind of use that judgment of like, what do I like when I receive emails? Email marketing is one platform, but what's really cool is you can connect it to other platforms. Maybe you're using a CRM like Salesforce or Zoho or some other type of platform. What you could do is connect them through an API, which is where you would hire somebody to connect it to. Or there are direct integrations that iContact offers, as well as a third-party platform called Zapier. They actually help you connect thousands of different apps together and then help you connect to iContact. Maybe if you do that survey I mentioned earlier through SurveyMonkey, you can connect that to iContact to get that data back into our platform. And when you send out an email, you can actually use that data in your emails. All right, I kept talking about email deliverability. I started talking about legislation. What happens is when you send an email, your domain name has something called a reputation, right? And your emails are being scored. What happens is the recipients like Gmail, Yahoo, private domains, they're looking at these emails and they're saying, hey, is this a good sender? And if people are engaging with your email or doing positive things like opening, clicking, forwarding, marking as important, starring it, flagging it, whatever that you consider to be positive, your email gets a better score. In other words, I correlate that to a credit score. Your credit score goes up the more positive things happens. There's also something called TINs, or this is not spam. If somebody goes into the spam folder and digs your email out, that is actually a strong signal to those email service providers that your email is worthy. Now, let's talk about some of the negative things, like your email bounces because the email address is invalid. People are ignoring your emails. They're not opening it at all. They're marking it as spam. They're unsubscribing. These are all negative signals. And yes, just by sending to a group of people and having them not engage is a bad signal. And what happens is that pulls your credit score down. Then at some point you get down to a 50 or a 40% credit score. A lot of these service providers are going to act differently around different numbers. And I'm just using the credit analogy as an example so that everyone can understand what's going on. But once you get below a certain threshold, those providers like Gmail are going to say, hey, this domain is not worthy of being in the inbox because they have a low credit score. Let's start sending more of their emails to spam. And you might say, well, hey, I've had that happen in the past, or I know someone has happened. They still get some of their emails into the inbox. Yes, the folks that are actually still engaging with your emails on a good level, they'll still get the emails in the inbox. But new people that sign up, they'll probably find emails in their spam folder. Try to keep your credit rating high. Do the right things so that you're helping yourself and you're helping your domain reputation so that more of your emails get into the inbox rather than the spam folder. One of the biggest ways that you can improve your credit score is by having good list hygiene. And no, I do not mean putting all of your data on a thumb drive, taking it out and scrubbing it with a brush or something. I'm talking about looking at folks who have not engaged with your email over a period of time. I like to recommend either a 6-month or a 1-year list hygiene type of campaign, right? Maybe if you send once a month, 1 year is good. If you send every week, 6 months is probably better. What you want to do is take a look at someone. Let's use the 6-month mark as an example here. You identify people who've been in your account for 6 months that haven't opened in 6 months. In other words, you've been sending them emails for 6 months, but they haven't opened one of them. Or if you're sending weekly, that's a lot of emails, and you haven't opened any of them. What you want to do is either immediately delete them, and I would applaud you if you do that. Not enough marketers do that because they're afraid of cleaning their list or removing people. What you can also do is maybe have a series of emails or even just send one, kind of like a re-engagement campaign. And the first message is going to have the subject line are we breaking up? ? I don't know about you, but if somebody's breaking up with me, I'm going to want to know why, and I'm going to open that email. And in that email, you're going to say, we're sad to know that you're not opening our emails, or at least we don't think you are. Would it be possible for you to let us know if you still want to receive emails from us? Maybe you have a yes and a no button, and keep those that engage and then remove those that don't. This way, you're showing these email service providers that you mean business and you're cleaning your list of dead weight and you're getting rid of those non-engaged folks, and that helps improve your credit score with those providers. When it comes to today's consumer, they're a lot different than they have been in the past. They're more empowered than ever. I call this consumer the empowered consumer. First of all, they have a mobile device, so they're going to be able to, number one, get emails on their mobile device. And number two, they're going to be able to do hands-on research. They're going to be able to look up information, look up pricing, look up availability, look at referrals and testimonials, and find out who they want to do business with and where they want to buy products and services. They're smart. They know where to go and who to go to get information. And believe me, today's empowered consumer is more vocal than ever. They're going to interact with you as a brand, and they're probably going to tell their friends, family, coworkers, and more importantly, post on social media about the experience that they have with you. So make sure that you are providing valuable information and also giving them a good experience when they do business with you. The empowered consumer is going to be very committed as long as you're providing them with the right pricing and value. Well, they're going to stay committed to you and work with you long term, and maybe tell others about you to help you get referral business. I also like to say that the empowered consumer is a global citizen. In other words, maybe somebody lives in Europe and they're thinking about moving to the United States. They could do research ahead of time of, number one, where they want to live, maybe where they want to start getting their meals, and more importantly, companies that they want to do business with. Borders have no barrier here. They're going to be able to look up that information ahead of time, or maybe it's just purchasing a gift for somebody that's overseas, right? So they can do business anywhere they are. Segmentation is a way for you to have a filtered view of your email marketing list. It's taking a certain segment of your audience and targeting them. When it comes to segmentation, The DMA has found that there was a certain percentage of increase in email revenue when using segmented campaigns. Now, what I want you to do is in your mind, think of a number of a percent of how much you could possibly increase your revenue through email marketing. And I'm just going to let that sit for about 2 seconds. So think of a number in your head because I know you're going to be wrong. And don't even think of a one-digit number. Go higher than that. So give me 2 seconds on the clock and just think about that. All right, do you have a number in your head? If you want to change it, do it right now. Because according to the DMA, marketers have found a 760% increase in email revenue by using segmented campaigns. In other words, by segmenting your audience and targeting the right person, you're going to have better results. You're going to make more money. You're going to get the right message in front of the person at the right time, and then also make sure that it's of value to them. When it comes to segmentation, I feel that there are 4 pillars of segmentation. The first one's geographic. The second one's demographic. The third one is psychographic. And then fourth and last one is behavioral. Let's dive into these in more detail. When it comes to geographics, you have location data, right? What country they live in, what city they live in, the density of that city. You're going to be able to tailor information based on where they are, where they live, and what they do in that area, right? It's powerful. So maybe if you have pricing for certain areas in cities or states, or you need to know what state they live in order to do business with them, this is going to be important information. When it comes to demographics, you're going to get information like age, gender, income, education, occupation. What do they do? How educated are they? How much money do they make? How old are they? So that maybe there's certain products or services I have that are better for certain age ranges, right? And you're going to be able to determine that through the use of data collection so that you can serve the right message to your audience. Psychographics is one of my favorites. It's in relation to people's lifestyle, what they value, what items concern them, maybe a little bit about their personality and attitude, and what I call AIO, or activity, interest, in their opinions, right? And you're probably saying, Hank, that's probably great information to have, but how do I get that information? Well, I mentioned it earlier. It's through surveys. What you can do is send out a survey, and if that information is very powerful and meaningful to you, maybe you can provide some sort of contest that they can enter to win an iPad or maybe a gift card, or provide everyone with a $5 gift card who interacts with your survey. But having this information is helpful and allows you to send better messages to your audience. And then we have what they're doing and not doing. That was behavioral, right? The behavioral was what are they doing and not doing. So that would be if they're opening your emails, not opening your emails. So if somebody doesn't open an email, maybe you could wait 3 days and resend that email with a different subject line to get them to open more. So that's kind of the behavioral. What are they doing and not doing? Now, you also want to develop what I call personas. You want to know who you're talking to. What you want to do is think of your ideal client. Don't think of them as a number of an email address. You need to sit down and describe the type of person that you're trying to attract so that you can effectively market to them, right? So we have Sally. Sally is a female. She's 65 to 70 years old. She likes gardening. She cooks at home. She lives in a rural area. And then we have Sam, who's a male. He's 40 to 50 years old. He likes golf. He eats out often and lives in a metropolitan area, right? What you want to do is make sure that you're targeting folks correctly. I wouldn't want to send Sally an email about the best restaurants to eat at some of the most prestigious golf courses in the country, right? And probably going to turn her off. So know your audience, know how to market to them, make the messages meaningful so that they actually engage and interact with your emails, making your marketing campaigns that much more powerful. If you follow these best practices, you'll have better results with your email marketing campaigns. Things have really changed since the days of dial-up internet. I still have that sound in my head, and it's always going to be there until I die. But that's something I grew up with. Email marketing was popular back then during the 90s with AOL, and it's still the best marketing channel for you to use now. You want to make sure you're providing value to your audience by using engaging content and then also targeting them as effective as possible. Ensure your success by employing what we discussed today. If you are looking for an email service provider, I want to give you access to my VIP Circle, which is a $30 exclusive discount. If you start a trial and you decide to use iContact, use coupon code HankFriend for a $30 discount. And also, I have a newsletter of my own. I basically call it a journal. And what I do is once a month, on the first of every month, I send out an email of great tools that I've found and ways I've optimized my workday, maybe some books I'm reading, an audiobook I found, or podcast that I feel has important information. I'm kind of just sharing things that I've done throughout the month that might be helpful to any business owner or any marketer. So if you want to sign up for that, text Hank to 444-999. Also, I'm going to tell you the 3 ways that you can start a relationship with iContact. The first one is free. Yes, I said free. We have great information on our blog. We have a podcast, and we do a lot of webinars like this one. So that's the first way you can interact with iContact. The second one is through that free trial that I offered you, the $30 discount. And lastly, we have something called a Premier Service offering, where we partner you with a strategic advisor who's your dedicated consultant that'll help you have the best strategy, help you get great looking email campaigns, and you also get what we call a project per month that you can use to have an email created, graphics created with our design team or anything design related. And we have a content team that can rate blog articles for you. We could do a whole bunch of other things like do social media posts, write a press release. So contact us if that's something of value to you. And as a bonus, I'm going to add 2 items in there that I feel are important to any marketer. The first one is iContact's subject line guide. It was recently published. It has 501 examples of good and bad email subject lines from data that we accumulated over the last 10 years. The most important thing here is we break it down by industry and by message type. So by texting Hank to 444-999, you'll get that. So to quote a famous man that was on TV selling, I think it was steak knives, but wait, there's more. I have one more item for you, and this is going to be our iContact content calendar. This is a downloadable PDF where we actually provide you with a way for you to plan your campaigns, give you ideas for what to post on social media and use in your emails. And it has a little to-do sheet on it where you can actually write out ideas for your next email. So to get all of those items, the bonus is my journal, text Hank to 444-999, and we'll get you all set up. So hopefully that was very valuable information for you, and hopefully these assets will help you if you sign up for those. What I want to do now is hand it back over to Jess, and let's dive into some of these questions, because anytime I do a webinar or a talk, there's always great questions, and it's always good to have a discussion about them.
Thanks, Hank. Like you said, any questions, you can type into the question box on your dashboard, and we'll get to those. I did have a question. For some of our brokers who have not yet dipped their toe into the waters of email marketing, what would you say is the most important first step for doing that?
Right. The first step is sometimes it's having that audience, right? You can always start without an audience, but the list building is the most important thing when it comes to email, because if you don't have an audience, you can't market to them. So if you don't have a list and you're not going to buy one, you might say, well, how do I get started? So you sign up for an account with a provider. It doesn't have to be iContact. Well, I'd be grateful if it was, but you can create a sign up form within our platform and put that right on your website, or maybe you can put it on a landing page. And you start attracting attention to your website. Or maybe if you're at a show or somewhere, you ask for permission. Hey, can I add you to my email list? And they say yes. You start adding them. Then you start doing a lot of what we discussed in the webinar today, where you're going to start building beautiful looking emails. And with iContact and others, you can build really professional, good looking emails without even knowing HTML or having to be a designer. Of course, a designer might help you make it look a little bit better, but we have some great layouts and themes that you can do to start that relationship with your audience. Email marketing, pound for pound, has the best return on investment. Therefore, everyone should be using it if it makes sense for your business. And the first step is to start acquiring an audience or bring your audience over and just start sending messages to them and using a lot of the best practices I mentioned, like making sure you're not sending too often, make sure that you have a good looking email, make sure your call to actions and your subject lines are good. So I would say it starts with that audience, whether you have it or if you build it.
Yeah, and to build off of that, I will say that for Cornerstone, we definitely found that sending out the right message has been a very trial and error situation. So sometimes you try things and they don't get as good of an open rate, but you continue to try things and add some of those elements to your existing emails, and it just gets better and better. So it might take some time from our experience at Cornerstone to actually build up that open rate from the beginning.
Yeah.
I do have a question from one of our attendees. If we buy a list, this is compliant for Medicare. I would have to get back to you specifically. I mean, we have used lists like that before, bot lists, and I can say that they're not as successful as lists that you get, like Hank said, the ones that you get from actually reaching out to your target audience. So I don't know that I would recommend that, but I'll get back to you specifically about that.
Right. And Jess, I can kind of elaborate that on that because almost everywhere I talk or have webinars, the question comes up like, hey, I bought this list, I want to use it, right, for generalities. And I feel bad sometimes because sometimes you pay good money for something and you were told that it's a viable list, right? And I hate to let people down. What you want to do is get that permission, right? You don't want to load them up in bulk and say to iContact and just send them an email, because not just because I said no or anything else. Keep in mind those negative things that are going to happen. A good portion of that list is going to be invalid. In other words, they're probably stale because that list has been around for a while. So your bounce rate is going to be high, and that's a negative factor for your email deliverability. Many people are going to say, hey, I never signed up for this, and they're going to mark your message as spam or unsubscribe, or they're just going to ignore it. Again, you're going to have more of those negative signals than the positive signals. Now, you might say, hey, if I get 5 people to buy from me from a list of 10,000, it's worth it. Well, yeah, is it worth that domain reputation so that your actual customers don't get your emails? What you might want to do is, depending on the list size, what you could do is email them one off or a few a day from the list from, say, Outlook or your business email, and just say, hey, I heard that you want information about blah, 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 or I saw you at a show that you signed up for partner emails. Say, hey, I have information about XYZ. I'd love to add you to my email newsletter. Would you mind if I did that? Or maybe look them up on LinkedIn and connect that way, then ask them if you can add them to the newsletter. In other words, get that permission, right? I'm not saying throw away the list. I'm just saying don't upload it in bulk and just send. Find other ways to interact with those folks. So that is actual data that you can use. You just got to use it strategically.
Yeah, absolutely. And for Medicare, it is a little bit complicated as well, so that's something that you do want to keep in mind. Can you tell me a little bit more about your subject line guide? We've actually used that internally for Cornerstone on some occasions, trying to figure out what's going to be the best to get our emails out to our broker specifically. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Right, so we dug through some data. Our marketing manager looked at a whole bunch of subject lines and started categorizing them and putting them into industries or a type of email, like a welcome message or broadcast message or split test. And we looked at what actually worked and what didn't work. So you could tell by the open rate. If something had a 70 or a 90% open rate, that's effective. If it had a 2% open rate, it wasn't effective. And our marketing manager actually made some comments along the way of why she felt it was either effective or not effective. Now, you might not want to go in and just steal some of those. I mean, you can, but what you might want to look for is certain key terms that were used in that subject line. Say, hey, you know what? I'm going to use those and test those. But it's a great resource. It's an easy read. It's got a lot of images in it as well. We got tables in there. We give you actual open rates and some of them, other types of data, but it's so helpful. That's a lot of subject lines to go through, and it does cover a lot of different industries. So you can look at it in generality, and then you can look at it for, say, insurance. You can look at it for retail. You can look at it for different types of industries, and then again, like different types of messages. So I encourage folks, it's free, download it. We want people to have it. We want people to be better marketers. So, to get that, the easiest way is to text Hank to 444-999. Otherwise, reach out to me on social media. If you Google my name, I'd probably take up the first 2 pages of results because I have a unique name. I'll definitely set you up with that.
Okay, perfect. And like I said, it's been really helpful for us, so I definitely encourage everybody to check that out. It doesn't look like we have any additional questions, but if you do, please feel free to reach out to mcs@crnstone.com. and we can get back to you. I know there's a lot of information, but it's definitely important things to help you grow your business. So I definitely encourage you to check out iContact. That's what we use internally, and it's a very intuitive software. And will we be able to send this PowerPoint out, Hank?
Yeah, definitely. I could send it to you, and you can share it with folks and let them look at the slides. And if they have any questions, they can contact me. I'd be happy to have a discussion with them.
Perfect, perfect. All right, thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Hank.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right, everybody have a great day.
Bye.